This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some big update to share with you. Democrats have a new date for the Build Back Better plan as talks between Schumer and Manchin apparently going pretty well. Gas rebate checks are going out in one state, but should there be a federal gas rebate check as prices of gas are going above $5 per gallon on average across the country? And I'll let you play a video clip from the Energy Secretary talking about how gas prices are going to stay up for a while and gives a timeline of when they're supposed to go down. And President Biden's poll numbers hits a new low. Even Bernie Sanders is saying that the Democrats need to change course. And I'll give you the latest on the child tax credits that are going on in 10 different states. And I'll give you some other important updates as well. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Biden approval rating at all-time low in new polls. So yeah, this is not looking good. It seems like every other week there's a new low. The poll published on Wednesday found that 58% of those who surveyed disapprove of Biden's performance as president, while 39% respondents approve. Let me know down in the comments below, do you approve or disapprove of President Biden's handling so far of the country? And then Democrats bullish on climate deal as they await Manchin and Schumer. So it looks like Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin having a lot of talks, keeping it close just to them, not really publicly revealing anything, but we seem to have a new date. The recent date was May 31st, or around Memorial Day, which was supposed to be the day that all this was supposed to be done, and it wasn't even close to that. But what we're seeing here is after blowing past their initial Memorial Day target, Democrats are now viewing the beginning of August recess as the current deadline for a deal, with the fall midterm season likely to put a pin in a serious legislation. Senate Finance Chair Ron Wyden, in an interview yesterday, specifically said August 1st would be an important day for striking a deal. So, soft date, soft deadline, August 1st. Is it going to happen? I don't know. If we look at all the past dates, did it happen before then? I'll let you decide what you think about that. And then also, Bernie Sanders, not too happy with the way things are going with his own party. Well, I guess technically he's a Democrat, but or he's an independent. Bernie to Democrats, change course before you nosedive in November. The Vermont Independent isn't buying the happy talk from a party still talking up a pre-midterm turnaround, and he has a prescription to avoid it. So what Bernie Sanders says here is you really can't win an election with a bumper sticker that says, well, we can't do much, but the other side is worse. And he also said the Republicans stand an excellent chance of gaining control of the House and quite possibly the Senate, he said. And they think, he warned that if they think they're going to march to victory based on those issues, I think that is not correct. So even Bernie Sanders saying it's not looking good for the Democrats, as well as President Biden. Now, when it comes to what's going on with the administration and the economy and inflation, Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, said stimulus spending contributed only modestly to inflation, basically saying that all the stimulus that happened in the past isn't the only reason for inflation. Saying here, I hate to think about what the situation, especially for low-income families, would be without the help provided by that plan, and talking about how important it was for all the stimulus checks. She also said here, the Treasury Secretary acknowledged the pain caused by inflation and gasoline prices in particular. Gas prices are an enormous problem. It's an enormous burden on American households. We need to do everything we can to address that, saying the success of the policy adopted is that we have an economy with the strongest labor market arguably in the entire post-war period. She also said a few other things. Janet Yellen wants a new way for people to file their taxes for free after very few Americans use the current program. So I guess saying she wants to make it more accessible for Americans to file their taxes, especially low-income Americans, and do it in a free, easy way, which there are some hurdles to go through. It isn't the easiest process for sure, especially since the IRS wants their money so bad. And then also, Janet Yellen, this was last week, but she said, I was wrong wrong. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen concedes she misread threat of inflation. So talking about in the past, she did not read it well and basically saying that she was wrong, which is very rare for politicians to say these days that they were wrong. Usually they double down and never apologize. And then Janet Yellen also says virtually impossible for us to insulate ourselves from soaring gas prices. So a little different than what her administration is saying. The reason why I shared this past one saying how she was wrong is she's more of a straight talker compared to a lot of the other politicians. So saying that she was wrong and also saying it's virtually impossible to insulate ourselves from the high gas prices, almost saying that there's nothing that can be done. And it looks like that gas prices are going to be here for a little while longer, or I guess relatively longer. Summer will be most expensive ever as gas keeps climbing above $5 a gallon. Take a look at this video clip right here from the U.S. Energy Secretary giving a timeline of when the gas prices could potentially go down, and unfortunately it's not anytime soon.
Gas prices on average rose another 4 cents Wednesday to reach $4.96 a gallon. That's for regular. These levels are 64 cents more per gallon than a month ago. For more on all things, or nearly all things energy, let us bring in Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Secretary Granholm is also the former governor of Michigan. Madam Secretary, you know as well as I do, possibly better, that Americans, particularly those in middle income and lower income strata, are in a full-blown panic about what they're seeing when they fill up their gas tank. Are you in a position to offer any calming or reassuring words about what Americans are likely to encounter through this summer when it comes to filling up their gas tank?
Yeah, this summer is going to be rough. I'll just be honest with you. The Energy Information Agency, which is the entity that projects forward all the price of gas, the price of oil, has said that by the fall, it should be down to $4.27 a gallon. And by late this year, early next year, it'll be down to $4, maybe under $4, maybe $3, high $3 a gallon. So there will be some relief on the horizon. But during the summer driving season, it is going to be rough, no doubt about it, because we have such a demand and supply mismatch on the global market for oil.
One of the things Americans who listen to this debate might hear with some frequency, Madam Secretary, is refining capacity in our country. And according to the statistics we reviewed, basically since April 29th, it's dropped in the United States by about 6%. So we're at about 94% capacity, if I'm saying that correctly. Explain to the audience how these two things are related, refining capacity and prices.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's refining capacity is actually, they're refining at a level that is very, very high. But the reason is that during the COVID, during the pandemic, there were about 6 refineries in the United States that were pulled offline, and globally other refineries came offline too. So you may have oil, but if you don't have refining capacity to turn that oil into gasoline, then you have got a big mismatch. On top of that, Major Garrett, we see that we have a huge gap in the amount of oil that is on the global market. So that pandemic created a huge problem because all of the oil and gas companies reduced their supply. They are starting to come back online. By the end of this year, they might be up to where they were before the pandemic. But then on top of that, of course, the war in Ukraine, Russia is a huge exporter of oil on that global market. And because of the war, countries like the United States and Canada and the EU have said, we're not going to buy Russian oil. And that pulls about 1 million barrels a day off the market. And then on top of that, you've got this refining problem. And then on top of that, you also have China coming out of COVID, which increases demand for more oil. So this is a problem not just in the United States. If you went to Canada, you'd be paying $6.39 per gallon equivalent. If you went to France or the UK, you would be paying $7.96. If you went to Germany, you'd be paying $8.90. If you went to Singapore, you'd be paying $9.08 per gallon. I'm just saying it is a global problem. And globally, every leader is looking for ways to increase production inside of their boundaries. If they're a producing state, they're looking for ways to reduce costs for people. And the United States is no different. Our president is losing sleep, I am certain, over the fact that people are hurting and are paying so much at the pump.
Madam Secretary, a couple of months ago, the president tapped the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. He said that would, he hoped, reduce gasoline prices. It hasn't. Is there more that can be done there, and why did it not meet the expectations?
Well, it did reduce prices at the time he did it, but since then, the EU has said they too are not going to buy Russian oil, and that makes a crimp. Since then, you have China opening up from COVID, and that creates another pinch. So he was releasing, and he is right now, 1 million barrels per day from that Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The prices would be higher if that were not the case. And he's doing it for the next 6 months while our domestic oil and gas industry creates another 1 million barrels per day by the end of this year is the anticipation to try to make that happen. However, there are other global impacts that are causing this supply disruption, if you will, including the refinery shortage, as you say, including other countries opening up, and certainly including the war in Ukraine.
Madam Secretary, in some of your testimony on the Hill, you've gotten these questions. I want to run at least one of them by you. Last month, President Biden canceled oil drilling and gas leases in Alaska after previously trying to sell these rights. A number of Democratic governors have pushed to relax the gas tax in attempts to alleviate gas prices. Do those two things create policy confusion? And on the latter case, do they run counter to overall Democratic principles for a cleaner environment, less dependent on fossil fuels?
Well, I think that there's two issues, Garrett. I mean, we clearly have to increase supply right now and do what we can to alleviate the pressure at the pump. At the same time, it's a foot stomp on why we have to move toward clean energy. It's, if we were reliant upon ourselves for, say, electrification of the vehicles, where you could be producing the electricity here using the sun or the wind, pushing toward those solutions to make us energy independent with clean energy so that we're not subject to the whims of petro dictators or countries who don't have our interests at heart, is part of the strategy. It's a medium and long-term strategy, and the president is pushing on those levers. But we also have to increase supply right now, both at home and around the world, to make sure that these prices don't continue to escalate.
On the topic of renewables, earlier this week, President Biden announced that he would use the Defense Production Act to accelerate manufacturing of solar panels here in the United States. Invoking the Defense Production Act is kind of an emergency measure. So what is the emergency and what is the goal?
The emergency is that right now, solar panels largely are coming from China, silicon coming from China. We want to be clean energy independent, and we want to manufacture the full supply chain for those products in the United States. Same thing with transformers, which are the big towers that connect wires on the transmission grid. Those are largely manufactured in China. We want to manufacture them in the United States so that we can have both energy security from a cyber perspective, but also energy security from being able to control the supply chains for energy. So the president is really focused on making sure we can add clean energy to the grid to make this electricity grid more resilient, have more energy. We know that demand for energy is only going to continue to increase. So we want to be able to produce the means to that energy independence here in the United States.
What are your thoughts on that? So yesterday, filled up my tank. It was $4.41 here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but that was at Costco. And across the street at Walmart, it was $4.57. So big difference there. So I think it is over $4.50 in a lot of places near me. What's the price of gas near you? Is it affecting where you decide to go and stuff? Let me know your thoughts on that. When it comes to gas rebate checks, before I get into the state gas rebate check, I'm really curious. Do you think that there should be a federal level gas rebate checks with how high gas prices are? Let me know your thoughts on that. So thousands waiting for gas rebate checks from the state. So this is going on in New Mexico, and saying that we've issued about 183,000 paper checks, but we have about 39,000 more to go, and we could issue about 14,000 checks per day. That's just our printing and mailing capacity, so we have several business days left to go until we're sort of caught up. So in New Mexico, they're giving out $500 checks for, well, single filers can expect $500 checks in 2 different payments, and then couples will get $1,000 checks split between 2 checks. So the next wave of checks should be sent in August. That's going on in New Mexico. And when it comes to child tax credits, I realize not everyone could benefit from this, which is why I saved this for later on. But if you know anybody with kids, there's 10 different states giving out their own different type of child tax credit. So I'll go over those right here. First up, we got a little chart here. So first up, California, $1,000 to each qualifying family with earnings under $25,000. Reduced credit of less than $1,000 to each qualifying family with earnings between $25,000 to $30,000. And then Colorado child tax credit. So beginning in January of 2023, 5% to 30% of federal credit for each qualifying kid. And then Idaho giving out $205 per qualifying child. Maine giving $300 per qualifying child and dependent. Maryland giving out $500 per child. Massachusetts giving out $180 for one dependent, $360 for 2 or more dependents. New Mexico giving out $75 to $175 per qualifying child, depending on income. And then New York, the greater of 33% of the portion of the federal child tax credit and federal additional child tax credit attributable to qualifying children, or $100 multiplied by the number of qualifying children. And then Oklahoma, 5% of federal credit, and then Vermont giving out $1,000 child tax credits. So those are all the child tax credits and all the news that I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I want to tell you the one thing you should do for when you're feeling down and you want to follow your wishes. Then do whatever you want. It's a free country here. You can do whatever you want. So bye guys. Have a good night or a good day.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your time and support. So today we are going to potentially go to the beach. We might do that. It's supposed to be nice today, but hopefully you have a nice day by you. And if you want to check out any of my other videos on my other channels, you could click up here. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Be safe. Thank you for watching.